Hi, this is an interview with Miss Elizabeth Cooper, the creative force behind Crave Cupcakes, one of Houston's most beloved bakeries. What started as a passion for baking has grown into a thriving business known for its handicraft, high quality treats. With a background in branding and marketing, Miss Cooper turned her vision into a successful company, proving that the right mix of creativity, strategy, and a little sugar can turn a dream into reality. You can find our article about Miss Cooper on our website, 6degrees.blog, and our Instagram page, 6 Degrees Away. Thank you and enjoy the interview.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got where you are today?
Sure. A little bit. Um, First of all, um, Crave Cupcakes is the business that I opened in 2008. Um, so it's been almost 17. It'll be 17 years in June this year.
Hmm.
And it started because I have always had sort of this entrepreneurial spirit in me, from a young age. Um, And I guess I didn't really realize what that meant because nobody really talked to us about that when I was young. But I always wanted to own my own business. I liked to be in charge. I think that was part of the thing is that I sort of had this vision of how I wanted everything to look.
Hmm.
And I always felt really confident about it. So when it came to opening Crave, I sort of I could already see it in my head without really like trying to come up with it that I would one day own a bakery and it would be specifically cupcakes and it would have sort of this nostalgic smell and sight. You could see people cooking and baking like you would if you were a kid baking with your mom or whoever. And then you could smell it when you walked in. Everything was very visual, but also very neat, almost like a jewelry box or a jewelry store. Um, and but anyway, that was sort of the basics of the vision. And I just knew that's what I wanted to do, and we didn't really sway from that. But I will back up and say that I didn't always want to own a bakery. I worked in the film industry, which is how I know Mrs. Rosenthal um, for 15 years before that, and directed and produced. So a lot of that was, creating a vision
Yeah.
and overseeing the whole thing and just making it happen.
Okay.
Uh-huh. I
Um,
can talk, just ask me specific questions is helpful.
um, can you tell us about the journey from the initial idea to opening the first Crave location?
Sure. Um, The initial idea, when I worked in the film industry, I'm from Houston originally, and I learned very early on that I needed a lot of favors. And the only way I kind of really got anyone's attention was to bake for them and bake cupcakes. So even before, they'd get a pre-gift, like when before I'd ask a favor, and then they'd always get a thank you gift. And they were quick to learn that if they did something for me, they got cupcakes. And that was like a novel idea because nobody was really baking. They were buying something for them um, and also I would always write a thank you note, which is apparently novel for a lot of people too. But I would handwrite it and bake them something. Usually it was chocolate chip cookies or cupcakes. And so while I was working in the film industry, I always sort of thought about how I could make a business about um, with making cupcakes, and I always thought like this, there's just no business to be had. Like this is crazy. I'm going to stick to my film career
Mhm.
and focus on that. And I ended up making a movie about a girl who owns a bakery. And that's kind of how it got started. So when we were scouting locations for that movie, we were looking in Houston, and the character in the movie does not own a bakery that's anything like Crave. But in scouting for bakeries, I realized that what I wanted to do with what would end up being Crave did not exist. Like it just didn't exist anywhere. Um, and I think that I really looked at every bakery in town at that point. Like there weren't as many as there are now. And I realized that my vision had not been seen in Houston. So when I after we made the movie and we started talking to a few investors about it, and they're like, you really should open your cupcake shop. You really should. I was like, I don't know. I've got this film career. And then I just decided one day it was actually easier to raise the money for the bakery than it was for the film. And the vision was all there. We found this spot at Uptown Park,
Mhm.
and it was a corner spot with big windows, and it was like, yep, you can see everything from here. Um, and it's a great location, and we're going to go for it. And we're not going to compromise in our vision in any way, shape, or form to what I think people would want. I just was going to do what I wanted to give people.
Nice. That sounds like a lot. So what was like one of the biggest challenges that you faced when you first started Crave, and how did you manage to overcome it?
Well, the biggest challenge that we had was convincing people that we could be a success selling only cupcakes. Um, we looked at a lot of locations for that original store, and um, when we finally I finally found that location, the original location, Uptown Park. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it or not, but it's like on a corner.
Yeah.
And usually you do not get leased corner spaces unless you are a restaurant, because they usually reserve that space for larger type uh, 2,000 plus square foot seating. And I had told the landlord when we were looking around at other spaces that I wasn't interested in anything there unless it was that space, which actually was already occupied. And he said, well, it's not available. But I said, well, can you ask the tenant, like, do they want out of their lease? Just ask them. And sure enough, they did. So I thought we got the space at that point. But then we got held up with the committee of gentlemen that ran the marketing as well as the leasing for that center, saying that they didn't want to lease to us ultimately because they thought that cupcakes would never sell and that it was going to be a waste of space.
Yeah.
So, um, and I was pregnant at the time. We'd kind of already sort of sunk all of our ideas into this. And I just decided to take a meeting with them, and we brought a gentleman in that we knew who knew them, and I brought vision boards. I can't remember now. It's been almost 18 years since that original meeting, but we finally convinced them that that it was going to be unique and something that we were going to build. Like, if you build it, they will come.
Hmm.
Give us the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
And I even remember the tenant that when we got the lease, the tenant next door was like, cupcakes, really? $3? Forget it. No one's gonna buy that. And pretty much that's what everybody told me.
Oh, wow. So during like COVID, like did Crave have to adapt to any of like the challenges like from the pandemic? And like were there any silver linings for your business at that time?
Great, those are great questions. COVID was a real eye opener, I think, probably for everyone. And for us, I'm trying to remember this different regulations that I think, like, initially they were saying you had to be closed, or they told us we had to be takeout only. That's what it was. Harris County, they were told to take out only.
Yeah.
And so at the time we had three locations, and our location in the Woodlands had a big seating area, so we had to shut that part down. Um, and in shutting that part down, we had to shuffle employees, obviously. We didn't need as many employees. Um, and we basically just, we did what a lot of stores do. I mean, from a customer standpoint, it was like, say 6 feet apart, and we only allowed three people in the stores at a time, right? That was really to please the customers that were concerned about COVID, as well as our employees, trying to keep everybody safe. But from a managerial operational standpoint, it was a nightmare. Um, every day we had a staff meeting every morning, which we normally have staff meetings once a week, or once every other week. And we had a staff meeting every day because we had to adjust for some new regulation, some new concern. some staff that were sick. Um, can we open with only two people or whatever it was? It was crazy. So we ended up adapting hospital hours as we called them, and which was sort of unheard for this industry. Nobody in this industry, people like to sometimes people have two jobs, um, but they were required to work 10-hour shifts for 4 days in a row. And then they would have 4 days off. So we divided that's how we were able to keep everybody employed, and we divided our team like that. And then we also changed our hours. So we no longer, we were only open for 8 hours as opposed to almost 12 before COVID. And then we had, if more than two people got sick, in a team, we had to switch the team out. So that actually didn't happen. It only happened a few times. But, I think the fear among the employees was the hardest thing to manage because some people just didn't show up to work, and you still had to keep doors open, and you still had to, serve customers. And we went from, catering giant parties and office parties and all this stuff to, someone coming in and getting 6 cupcakes, which is a great customer, but not the big customers that we had.
Yeah.
So,
Were there any pivotal challenges that turned out to be important lessons?
um, from COVID specifically or just in general? Because I know that was a COVID question.
In general?
Yeah. I think, yes. One thing that happened is, aside from COVID, we opened a location in the Woodlands in 2015, and I was so excited to have more space, have a whole area where people could sit, and we had a lot of other offerings because I thought, well, if we can do cupcakes really well, we can do whatever we want really well. I got a little greedy, and we had a lot of things, a lot of different items. And ultimately, no matter whatever marketing I did for those, people just wanted cupcakes. And we'd look at our sales, and it'd be, 92% cupcakes and 3% of something that we had spent a lot of time on producing. And after about 2 years, we decided it wasn't worth like branching out of that. And then with COVID, yeah, we learned a lot of stuff. We learned how to be much more efficient. People that didn't, you know, work so much on their phones or computers or whatever. We moved everything to online meetings and online scheduling and online document sharing, and everything is done. It was mostly done before that way, but everybody became much more tech savvy. We started to use more licensed different software to run our stores, that we wouldn't have known about. We were kind of forced to figure out ways to be lean and smarter. So yes, that is the silver lining of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh, oh,
Oh, sorry. No, yeah. Yeah.
well, what do you think sets Crave apart from other bakeries and cupcake shops?
Um, I've always really felt strongly that first and foremost, we're owner operated. So um, I am or my business partner are at the stores, um, you know, at least once a day or one or two of the stores or throughout the week, overseeing everything. Um, so we have a hand in what everything looks like, what everything tastes like, and knowledge of our employees and respect from them individually. Aside from that, we deliver a product that we've delivered since the day we opened, and we haven't compromised on it. We use, the finest ingredients to create a nostalgic item that we think most people will connect with. And we've had to, I would say we have pivoted and changed based on dietal needs over the past 16 years. And what was the question again? It was veering off.
The question was, what do you think sets Crave apart from other bakeries and
Oh,
cupcake
right.
shops?
Okay. Yeah. And then I also think because we're owner operated, I think that our customer service sets us apart. I mean, we take care of everybody. Their needs come first. And like I said, when you come in to Crave, or if you've been a customer, new customer or an old customer, it's going to be the same consistent service and product. Um, and we don't veer from that.
Okay. That's good. What do you think is one of like the most underrated aspects of running a business that people like don't really talk about?
Underrated or you mean that would ultimately be beneficial or just
Yeah.
think about that? Hmm, underrated aspects that people don't really talk about. I don't know, it's very rewarding. It's very rewarding to create something and see people enjoy it. Um, I I'm creating a product that generally I didn't think about it. I did it because I like cupcakes, and the reason because people ask me that all the time. It's like, like why cupcakes? Well, I actually was passionate about that, and um, because I kind of did something that I was passionate about, I still really enjoy doing it, which I think is key to like being successful. Um, so I don't know. Maybe that's kind of answering your question, but
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
that's good.
What advice would you give to someone looking to start their own business, particularly in the food industry?
Um, hmm. I would ask them, first of all, I would tell them that they need to, there's lots of great software that when I say software, but like products you can use to help run with your payroll, licensing of things, your food costs and supply to keep everything and create goals in terms of what percentage you're going to be using for each thing in the industry. Like you have a certain set food cost goal, you have a certain set labor goal, and and stick to those goals. Do not veer from them because that will keep you afloat. And in order to keep with those goals, you need to be willing to think forward in terms of like software and things that help you be more efficient. Um, you need to I would always say use the best ingredients you can get because you're going to create the best product that way,
Mhm.
and your customers are always going to appreciate that. And they know if you haven't. So don't ever try to do that. Um, Obviously, consistent customer service is key. So training manuals and being on top of every hire is very important. Um, we do something called secret shoppers, which I think is super important, and that is that we have hired a company that comes in with secret shoppers twice a week, and they basically grade us they have like almost 72 questions they go through and check, and that is reported back. And so every single person that works for us knows that any customer at any given time could be one of those people. Um, so it's also just allotting money to your budget to making sure that even when you're not there as an owner, that your team is actually fulfilling your vision and your need um, based on like rules that you've set and held strongly to.
That's really cool. So you guys like hire a company and someone just comes in like randomly, like
Mm.
know if they're uh like an
So they basically come in and they have a $50 budget. So they can come in and it's basically a gift card that they have. So it might get passed along to someone else. So they might not spend $50, but they come in and they're they're taking notes discreetly, basically. They know what to look for from the second they get out of their car until they get back in their car in terms of the experience. And it's the best way to know sort of from a non-biased standpoint, like, you know, were there crumbs in the case that were visible? Whereas, I mean, in all these little checkpoints, someone's held responsible to because it's on their list of to-do things. So they want to do it right because they know they're going to be checked by it. I mean, some employees are more interested in doing a great job than others, and
Mhm.
that's kind of how you find out. Um, so you
That's,
do your best to put your best foot forward to your customer.
yeah, of course.
What personal qualities or habits do you think have been important to your success?
Um, I would say I'm sort of type A personality. I like to be in control of like I said, the vision. Um, and it's like it could be considered sort of annoying and I don't want to say obnoxious, but annoying to have someone standing over you telling you this doesn't look good, this isn't part of the brand. And I
Mm.
don't ever do it that way. I just encourage, but also like go back to sort of like an original vision of what everything is supposed to look like. I would say also that I don't have a lot of like creative people that come to work for me are probably a little discouraged because there is a way that we do things and it's not encouraged to come up with your own way to make something look or taste.
Mm.
So I have to be on that a lot. But I think that's why people know what they're getting when they come into Crave because we've stuck with a look and a taste and an expectation. So it's very easy for an employee to tell me, I think we should do this because of this. And sometimes, if I hear it enough times, I take that into consideration, but I always find a way to make it look like what we do, taste like what we do, have the same experience that we've come to be known. And there kind of has to be some sort of figure doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because what happens is, you know, if I have 92 employees, that's 92 different people that can interpret something differently. And I don't want that to be the case. So it really kind of takes someone that's going to, kindly encourage everybody that works for you to stay on track with what the goal is. And that is to please people, help them enjoy their cupcakes and their experience so they come back.